2-game suspension. He clocked Kole Sherwood, saying he was just defending a teammate. Despite the suspension, he says he is absolutely positively not going to change the way he plays.
I mean, it was pretty clear the guy, whatever you want to call it, slashes or spears the goalie, and just standing up for him. And it's a school year out there, you know. You got to defend yourself, or else, or defend your teammates, or else you kind of get walked all over. And you know, I was brought up in the age and everything where you protect yourself at all times. Suspension won't change that moving forward.
Okay, initial reaction to that. He did get backed up by his GM, and he gets a 2-game suspension. He's not going to change. You heard that. If you were his teammate, you would say?
Well, you're happy about it if you're his teammate, because part of his job is to make sure he keeps the other team on edge. And once in a while, he's going to go over the edge in the way that he approaches things, though. But he didn't like that extra poke there against his goaltender, and he felt like he should deal with it. He does. It's excessive and deserving of a couple of games, but it also sends a message to everybody in the National Hockey League that Lucic isn't done doing that. And the fact that he backed it up with the way he spoke afterwards, he's going to accept the suspension, but he's going to continue to do whatever he feels is necessary to help his teammates. He admittedly, it's a different environment today than it is. That's not a 2-game suspension back in the day. But now he has to be, responsible just how excessively he goes after the opponent. But he's going to be there for his teammates. There's no doubt about that.
He's got a unique skill set that a lot of players in the league today don't have. That's that intimidation factor, physical presence. He's protecting his teammates, protecting the goalie. It looked to me like Sherwood hasn't been in a whole lot of scrums in front of the net or behind the net for that matter. Wasn't prepared at all for Milan Lucic coming at me. I'm not the toughest guy when I played the game, but if Luc was coming at me, I'd have my hands up and I'd be looking for my teammates. So maybe it speaks to how the game has changed over the years, but as a teammate of Milan Lucic, after hearing that interview, I love it. That's what I want out of him. It can be intimidating watching guys like Connor McDavid skate around the ice and make people look silly with their speed and skill. I like the old school intimidation factor with Milan Lucic, physical presence.
And it's not like it's the first time he's done that type of play. He did with Zadorov as well, who learned a valuable lesson. And I haven't seen him keep his arms down very often since then. And he's been running guys over along the way. So Sherwood's going to learn a valuable lesson with this. And thankfully, he was not seriously injured on the play.
Don't you think that that's kind of the point that he's making there, where he's like, if you're going to take a little shot, even a small one at my goalie, this is not a sucker punch now, because you've sort of opened, to him, you've opened that Milan Lucic door. We say about the Roman Polak door, right? Don't open that door. You've opened the door here. You should expect something, so you should protect yourself. I think then he said something about maybe I just go lighter. Maybe I just don't go as high. And I guess the idea is if you don't hit someone directly in the head, maybe you don't get 2 games. But he doesn't score goals. He's not intimidating that way anymore. It's a different game. Is this a guy who's just proving his value, and now this is his value to this team?
Listen, he wants to earn his paycheck, and he wants to be a valuable contributor to the team no matter what he has to do in order to be that guy. So he probably should have just wrestled the guy down to the ice. It probably would have had the same message, stared him down and said something verbally to the player. This one is much more appealing to the eye if you're watching it, because you're going, wow, that's a message to everybody. Lucic is back. But the reality is that type of play is no longer acceptable in the NHL. So he's got to find a different way to do it. But it's a difficult spot for him.
And that's what he said, I'll try to avoid the head.
Yeah, I feel some level of compassion for him, because the game changed on him in an absolute hurry. I mean, this was a top-line player with the Boston Bruins when they won the Stanley Cup in 2011. Very effective player. Was a guy that picked up points offensively, was given all kinds of room on the ice because nobody wanted to get near him. And now the rules kind of protect players from him. And this proves that once again. So if you're a guy that wants to be pesky and bother Milan Lucic, you probably can get away with more than you ever did in the past.
And remember, he's speaking to a camera. The entire National Hockey League's going to see this. So maybe he's sending a message. Who knows if he comes in throwing punches to the head next time, but he's still going to come in there, defend his goaltender, defend his teammates, and hey, that's a message to the rest of the league that when you play the Flames, keep your head up for 17.
Yeah, and I mean, you pay the fine, and it's substantial, right? 65 grand essentially. But after that, you lose him for a couple games. It's early in the season. You're not really missing his offense. but the intimidation's still there when he returns. And I think the give and take from that, from his perspective and from his teammates' perspective, is that we're willing to sacrifice that for a couple games if the next time you're on the ice with him, you're looking over your shoulder.
Yeah, and that's par for the course with a player like Lucic, and that's why his general manager backed him up as strongly as he did, saying that he thought it was way excessive, the suspension, didn't think he deserved to be suspended at all when he looked at it. But that's more of a pat to the back of Milan Lucic, telling him, you've done well here. Back in the day when there wasn't a salary cap and there was ways that you could reward a player for doing something that you liked, even though it went over the line, the old hockey school in the summer, the Milan Lucic shooting camp would have taken place and he would have been given his money back, but that no longer exists. But you can still verbally at least appreciate what your player in your eyes has done for your hockey club.